Welcome everyone to a casted game for Age of Empires 4, and today, spawning in the north corner of the map, playing in blue, we've got puppypaw, playing as the Malians. And his opponent in the south, his brother, playing in red, as the HRE. We've got Wham-O-1. Welcome everyone to Dry Arabia. What is going to be promising to be a great game. I can say that with certainty because we've got two great players, two great civilizations in the Holy Roman Empire and the Malians. Both civilizations that have traditionally been known to be quite powerful in the Castle Age, but I gotta say, we have been seeing them being played quite heavily in the Feudal Age as well. Especially with the type of units they've got. I like this matchup because they kind of, I mean the HRA, we all know how strong their economy is, 40% gather rate extra with the Prelates, and the Malians though, they have some really nice interesting units. Of course you've got the Donsos and the Javelin Throwers, very unique units, very strong units in the way they work. Of course the Donso able to throw their spear and get some good ranged attack against cavalry. And then of course you've got the javelin throwers, which are great with dealing with archers. The Malians though, they can always look to get some cows in the action. A cow boom is never far away with the Malians. And slowly trickling them in can be really nice to build out of economy. Speaking of economy though, and the map generation, gold going to be in an okay-ish position. It's not terribly far forward, not exactly at the back of the base either. It's roughly on the side, could be a targeting point for the Malians, and I think a lot of the way we're figuring out in this most recent patch with the HRE being played slightly different is how much do they commit to the Feudal Age. The big concern I have against going up against Malians, it feels like the Malians can do incredibly well in the Feudal Age. It's about, yeah, the Malians are so strong in the earlier game, I gotta say. Like with the feudal age units they have, it's difficult to find an answer a lot of the times. So that's going to be a second town setter for the HRE and Wham. HRE playing the style a lot these days. And that's going to scale the economy really nicely. But going up against the Malians and second town center from the HRE means there's probably not going to put too much pressure. It means the Malians could go full cow boom mode. And that's a bit of a concern. Question is, which is better? A second town setup from the HRE or Malian cow boom? Maybe we'll find out today. Either way, something else I did want to say today, by the way, guys. Thank you so much for all the support on YouTube and Twitch. You guys are absolute legends. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We've been having some great games in Age of Empires 4 recently, I've got to say. Some really good games. Hopefully it continues. Hopefully this one will be good as well. Prelate coming out just to inspire the villagers on stone, just to get that second town set at ASAP. Question is, where does he go with it? I mean, the Archchapel around here on the right side, I mean, it makes a lot of sense to place the town center relatively close by, because there is deer and gold. Would he look to place it closer to home? That's a question that we'll find the answer to soon. Mansa Quarry, no real surprises there for the Malians. Going to get that passive gold generation and work on from there. Alrighty, almost there to the Feudal Age, and the scout going around there for puppypaw. So he'll notice the fact that it's going to be a two-town center play for the HRE. The question is, how does puppypaw respond to that? Would he go for a Feudal Age, Castle Age rather? Would he try and put some Feudal Age pressure? It feels like Castle Age is a nice option. We'll see how puppypaw addresses this situation. I gotta say, the Malian soundtrack is one of my most favourite as well. It's just so good. A lot of them are. Like, I find it difficult to say that there's any bad soundtracks or musics for the civilizations in Age of Empires 4. They're all so good. Now, as the game does wear on, by the way, as a cow boom potential, this area is really nice because, of course, it's got a couple of wood lines it can wall towards and to the edge of the map. It'd be quite nicely protected around the back if it does decide to do just that. And you're starting with the cow boom. Only 1 mil so far, though. Often we do see 2 mils and a double cow boom. Looks like maybe he's going to get a production building actually, puppypaw, to get some damage out. Potentially, we have to see. Almost got enough wood for it. Second town center going to go on the gold and just to protect the Ark and Chapel farms. It's a nice spot. Wheelbarrow comes in for puppypaw. A second town center does mean that Wham's economy is going to be incredibly strong, and with 40% buffering the prelates, I mean, income should be looking pretty fine and dandy. A lot of wood coming in at the moment. Maybe looking to get a relatively early farming transition. I mean, he just spent some of the wood, so maybe it's production. There it is. There's a stable. So 2 town center into feudal age pressure maybe here, with a bit of feudal age pressure into castle age. Yeah, actually moving the village from gold, keeping a couple on gold. Yeah, with only 3 villages on gold, actually, it does suggest he's going to play a heavy feudal age. I think it makes a lot of sense because he wants to put some pressure on the malians, force them out into units. Question is whether the malians mind that or not. I mean, I think for a lot of times, with Donso's javelin throwers, it doesn't really feel like it matters too much for the malians to have to play an extended feudal age. It's just about how greedy they become. Does have 2 mills now, both producing cattle. The question is, with an extended feudal age, who has the better income of resources in the background? Would it be a second town center, or would it be the cow boom? I'm tempted to think it's going to be the cow boom. Adding in an archery range as well here, Wham. Donso's queued up. He noticed the stable, of course, and is immediately reacting to it. Double archery range, so yeah, Wham definitely playing heavy feudal age. Well, relatively quiet at this stage of the game. Not much aggression, despite being 7-8 minutes in, but it's understandable. It's going to be the calm before the storm. One thing you can bank on is that, well, if you haven't seen an aggression for the first 7-8 minutes, you definitely will afterwards. He'll come in a big way. He's scouting just to see where he can send the horsemen. Already just coming out. That's kind of exposed. It's sending 1 or 2 Donsos there now. On the mill, looking to gather the deer camp. Horseman might head on there. Needs an archer or 2, though, to push away the Donsos when they do get involved. Donsos will be in position now, and I like that movement by puppypaw. He recognizes the scout. He recognizes it could be under pressure, although he's got what he needs. He's got the Donsos. But he does now see the archers, so Wham, pressurizing that area with a couple of units, and puppypaw says, nope, not having it. I'm going to back away. No need to risk it. He's got the cow boom after all. But as time goes on, village elite starting to climb up here for Wham. Making its way on the right side with a couple of units. Gold vein at the back could be a target. Now, one thing to consider is that the HRE might need a farming transition in the next sort of 10-15 minutes, and that can be a timing window for the Malians. Bear in mind, the great thing about the Malians is that not only is the cow boom incredibly strong in terms of gather rate, but also the fact that it doesn't need, it's a slow and steady equivalent to a farming transition. So there's no kind of stalling in terms of military production, like in the mid game, because of course a lot of civilizations, when they do need that farming transition, they can't transition and keep pumping out units, and so for a couple of minutes or so they're stalling on unit production. The Malians, on the other hand, they don't have such a problem. With 9 cows at the moment, working hard, getting a decent amount of gold already, a decent amount of food rather already. Both players may be posturing towards that castle age. Obviously, puppypaw hasn't had to be under too much pressure for too long from the cavalry. Just getting a couple of units. Villages being pushed away. Does deny the wall. It's going to be Regn's Cathedral going with 12 villages, and so this is where we start to think about relics. This is good timing for the HRE. Grand Fulani Coral coming off the Malians as well. Now, it won't be too far away in terms of the tech up. Donsos, you can see how much value they get. Just being able to throw their spears is so strong. Oh, I didn't keep 1 or 2 Donsos here, would have been helpful. They should be able to throw their spears and take out the horsemen. All the horsemen managed to get out, wasn't walled in the end, and actually does take out a significant amount of HP from that. It's a nice throw. Look at this, the prelate's getting in position. As soon as the tech up comes in, you can You can bank on it that relics will be picked up. Well, this is great, because he's also taking the 2 relics that are kind of in the mid-map that are really contestable, and this comes down to map positioning in the units he's got. There it is, there's a castle age. Wow, I'm going to bring those 2 relics back home, and that's significant, especially with the Regnitz Cathedral. That's a lot of gold that will be coming on in. But now puppypaw moving on out. A little bit too late though, those relics have already been picked up. He recognised that as soon as the tech up comes in, that relics is an issue. Too little too late, Wham's picked them up. And even got the Regnitz Cathedral in a fort position just to get the relics in even quicker. Setting another prelate on the west side, and yeah, I mean look at this, puppypaw. I mean it makes a lot of sense to go for the relic on this side. He might even get this one quicker than puppypaw can get there. That's massive. If he gets 3 relics with the Regnitz Cathedral, it's a big boost to that economy. Getting the upgrades, veterancy upgrades coming on in. First relic already in, as is the second. Now it does have a stable. The usual software transition for the malians is in progress. Looks like just trying to keep an eye on this relic at least. Prelate bringing in the 3rd. Is going to get a mosque here, the malians, in the end. We'll certainly have at least 1 relic, but this one, I mean, he should be able to get this one. It could be contested, though, by Wham, potentially. He's sending a prelate out there to his demise. Blacksmith will get some good upgrades in relatively soon. Yeah, but both players playing this quite macro heavy. You know what that means. It's a calm before the storm, typically. Another stable, so mass soft are going to pop out, which is, I think I like it, because obviously there was a lot of archery rangers earlier on for the HRE, and so the soft will be able to deal with that. Well, as I say that though, crossbowman, a nice transition for the HRE if he wishes to get that. The Malians cowboom pretty much done and dusted. There was 1 cow that didn't quite get the memo. Extensive ores on the west side. That stone looks like it's going to be opting for a keep in the middle, potentially, a puppypaw. And we did see in the last game, actually, that we casted between these 2 players. That gold in the middle of the map, that's something that puppypaw likes to do early on. He likes to get control of those gold veins, because it's hard to win back, right? The keeps are such a strong static defense that once you get them up, it buys you a lot of time. It's difficult for your opponent to deal with, and especially with the HRE being, you know, relatively condensed in terms of the way they're playing the game in the back of the base. It allows puppypaw to have this map control. I wouldn't be surprised to see it keep in a nice forward position. As I say that though, he's got enough stone for a town centre, but not enough for a keep. Curious. Maybe he had a change of heart. Doesn't actually have the full houses around the pit mine. So he's missing out on a bit of gold. He's actually going to go for a second town centre to catch up with the population. I mean, it makes sense in a way. He doesn't want to be running behind too much. Obviously, 40% is already a big kick in the teeth. Second town centre of the HRE I've got. That's something he's had to contend with. And he's going to look to try and just keep up a little bit. More production. So I can play a heavy castle age. I wonder whether the HRE will even think about going for the Imperial age. Could be an option. And it almost feels that way, considering the walls coming up nice and early, playing very condensed, getting outposts in key areas. We're getting some stone walls, it seems. But struggling on food. I think we're heading to the situation where actually farming transition is needed. And there it is. There are the farms popping out. It means that if he is put under pressure, he's not going to be able to produce too many units too quickly. He's struggling on that food. That's for sure. Third relic they're being brought in rather for the HRE. 3 relics versus 2. I mean, I think Wham will be happy with that. The way things are. And puppypaw continues to pump out those Malian units. No sign of backing down. Yo, that's a lot of army from the HRE. That it feels rough that people can't really ever push that. I think actually, just like in many games we see as the HRE, they can be very prone to siege, mangonels in particular. And speaking of mangonels, Wham gets one of his own. Sacred Site on the right side, been captured, and Wham might be looking to get a keep actually. He's got 700 stone, and that might actually help him protect himself in terms of a relatively faster castle age, Imperial age rather. Palace of Swabia could be helpful. He's almost there in stone. Looking to torch his way through and maybe think about putting some pressure on the Vegas Cathedral, but it doesn't really feel like he's got enough units. I've got to say, the economy for Wham, right from the beginning with that second town Zeta, has put him in a really good spot. It's meant that he's been able to produce a lot of units, but also scale that economy very nicely, and I think that farming transition, yeah, look at it. It's looking good. It's looking very, very good. Sacred Site captured in the middle, and I wouldn't be surprised to see the other one captured too. I wonder whether puppypaw will play towards a Sacred Site victory. It's a potential win condition. Puppypaw running out of his first gold. Gonna have to find other solutions. Now with 1,000 stone, I wonder where Wham will decide to place his keep. I mean, I think it makes a lot of sense to get hold of these 8,000 gold vein tiles if he can. He's got to find a way to do so, especially with the army being on the west side. Maybe this now is a chance for the villagers to come out on the right. And like a keep here could be a really strong position to deny the 8,000 gold vein and also the 4,000. Breaks on in, does have a mangonels. Archers and javelin throwers have to be careful here for puppypaw. Sacred Site victory is an option, has started the ticking timer. Maybe he's going for cannon emplacements in terms of the outposts. Not so sure actually. What Wham's idea is with the keep or the stone. So a lot of poking and prodding, back and forth. Bit of army on the west side. Wham getting prepared for the push on the right side. Suffer dive on in. Has to be careful about the spearman numbers. A decent shot on these archers on the back line there. Puppypaw getting a couple of those rocks in his faces. And the mangonel shot deploys. Does manage to get out of there, Puppypaw. And one mangonel pushes his army back in a big way. It's such a strong unit that can do that. Instills fear into your enemies. Pushes them back. Just clearing up on the west side. Trying to get an outpost, but he's got to need to deal with this army. He's going to keep up the Sacred Site timer ticking. Yeah, it looks like Wham's pushing on the right side. He wants to get... I think this will be a strong position for a keep. I really do. Got 1,500 stone in the bank. Saved on up here, Wham. The Suffer will dive on in. Only a handful of spearmen were there, so once the spearmen are dealt with, those archers are going to go down pretty quickly. Nice cleanup. Yeah, there's the keep. He's making a push for it. Tall outpost can be torched down by the spearmen. It's got a good number of units here, Wham. And so the keep should go up. I mean, it should go up, especially with the mangonel. It's incredible how one unit can do a lot for the game and the fight. And that is going to push the malians back into the middle of the game, the middle of the map. Well, as I say that though, Suffer going down the west side, forward of the Huntress, going to the Imperial Age now. The malians, which is kind of interesting to see them go to the Imperial Age before the HRE. We're going to get it in the central location, in that central Sacred Site. Does take out an outpost, so it denies one relic gold income for now, at least temporarily. Palace of Swabia going to be built with 21 villages as well. And I like this. We were talking about in the last cast of the HRE and this particular landmark how it offers not only villager boom, which not necessarily relevant in this situation, but what it does, it allows a lot of recoverability. If you get raided, you know, it's very difficult to be raided to death because you just produce villagers incredibly fast and incredibly cheaply. Speaking of villages, these villages on the west side are pretty exposed. Spearmen going to chase. With marching drills certainly helps. Soft going to dive on in, and yeah, village is going to be dragged away and doesn't lose anything in the end. And this Imperial Age now coming in for the HRE. Relatively good timing on that, considering his enemy was there earlier. Not too much of a lead time on the Imperial Age upgrades for the Malians. Going to get a keep in the defensive position on the Regis Cathedral. Pretty nicely secured. Oh, interesting placement for the Swabia on the wood line. Getting some farms of his own here, the Malians. Decent number of them too. Now, interestingly enough, trade. I mean, if this game goes long, trade could be a feature. But before that happens, look at these 8,000 gold veins. They're looking juicy. Just grouping in the middle, and I wonder if he's just going to take his upgrades and then waltz on in. Quite possible. There is the elite upgrade for the Sofa, elite upgrade for the archers. Now's go time for the Malians, it seems, making a move for the west side. And incidentally, the HRE making a move on the east side. Only with a handful of units though. And there's going through this area, no bueno. So keep in the way. And so siege is going to become a critical thing. Both players need to get that, of course, to break through the static defenses. And on the right side, he's just going to use his torches for now. No keep there protection other than the palisades. Sofa just coming on back just to get in position a little bit. I mean, Sofa can't really deal with that. I mean, sure I mean, I don't know about this. I mean, I think it would be good trade for Wham. I mean, sure, the Sofa are in much better numbers, but ultimately Spearman is the hard counter. He's trying to get a couple of hits maybe for free. He's going to take the fight. I mean, to be fair, I guess they are elite Sofa. He does have imported armor. So he will clear up the spearmen, but he will lose a couple of cavalry in the process. And a lot of these cavalry are weak now. Oh, this gold vein going to be denied in a big way. There's going to be a lot of loss of villagers here. I've got to say, Malians have to back away. And a couple of Landsconnects, that's dangerous. Like, he's got to be careful of those for sure. And the big key situation here is that the fact that the Fort of the Huntress went in the middle of the map, slap bang in that central sacred site, the two 8,000 gold vein tiles are kind of in control for Wham. He's got the static defense on the right side, he's got his army on the west side. That's something that puppypaw needs to get out on the map to try and deal with. He's got plenty of food, but not really getting as much gold as he would want. I mean, sure, he does have the Banser Quarry, he does have the pit mines, but it won't be enough to sustain a late game army. Does have 3 relics, to be fair, and 2 sacred sites. Tunnel outpost on the right side being denied, and it's going to start taking out the pit mines and the infrastructure around them. That's going to harm the gold income even further. A culverin and a bombard in the middle. Looks like puppypaw wants to push in the middle at some point. He's grouping up together. He thought about torching in, but there's just too many archers for puppypaw. He'll be able to deal with that. Ooh, stone walling up. Puppypaw wants to cover up the map a little bit. Oh, those lands connections. If they get on top of the archers, that could be devastating. I mean, that will be devastating. They're getting a good couple of hits. Now, Poison Arrow works quite well. I mean, lands connection, after all, are like glass cannons, so they do get sniped pretty heavily, but they got some value at least. And I mean, I'm surprised they're not turning around to fight this. I guess it's Poison Arrow he's worried about. And the Sofa might dive on in. Spearman numbers not looking great, but the HP on the Sofa are pretty much gone. And interesting that he's kind of fighting with the Spearman on the production, on the buildings, rather than using him as a bit of a meat shield. Wait, those Spearmen need to get in position. Oh no, Wham! He needs to back away. Osman looking to dive on in. Spearman about to brace, you feel, but the number of Sofa he has, I think this could be a good fight here for Puppy. If he decides to take it, he's not going to engage with the Sofa just yet. Wants to whittle down the numbers of Spearmen and then go on in. Does have a couple of hand cannoneers added into the mix here. Wham! And that village account is going to be looking healthy, because the Palace of Swabia ultimately is at 200 population. So now all it comes down to is the upgrades and the units that are chosen. It's like a couple of elite man-at-arms being added into the mix. Incendiary arrows coming in for the ranged units, at least in terms of the archers. It's going to be making them pack a punch for sure. A lot of villagers on the gold. He's taking advantage of it whilst he still can, understandably so. Getting another keep on that side of the map though this time, and yep, got to secure 8,000 gold. Definitely needed. Gotta say, Wham's situation though, is gonna need to find another gold vein to excavate. It's gonna be this one on the right side most likely. But heading into sort of the 30-minute mark of the game, it's where we start to run out of gold slowly but surely, and that's where things become a bit tense. And speaking about going tense, that's a lot of hand cannoneers and archers on the back line. Manatons for the HRE, spearmen for the HRE. Sofa going to try and get on top of them. There is a mangonel. The cavalry can take out the mangonel. That'll push the siege back away for the HRE. And cannoneers are ripping through those Sofa. And, well, I mean, I think it's a fight that's kind of relatively even. I think the hand cannoneers, they might just tilt it in the way of the HRE. I'll tell you what will tilt it in the way of the HRE. It's the mangonel. Well, the mangonel does get taken down by 2 hero Sofa for the Malians. And this is where things become a bit interesting. I think in a straight-up fight, I think the HRE just win this. It's getting reinforcements as well in the back. He's trying to get as much stone as possible, but they just have to back away. Incendiary is doing great work for the HRE, and he's pumping. The bank of resources looking strong as well. And the HRE slowly starting to move forward. The one concern for the HRE is it doesn't really have much in the way of siege to take out infrastructure. The archers though, hand cannoneers, he's taking out a lot of units. Puppypaw is in a lot of trouble. He's backing away. Now, if he can get a mangonel or 2 out, popping out at the right time, it could be devastating, but he needs it. He needs it now. Trickling in some siege. Trickling in a couple of Sophos. Not going to do it. He needs to take out this mass of ranged units. Oh, there's the mangonel deploying. Will we get a good shot off or not? There's a Manatom on it. Oh, God, he does get a shot off, but doesn't take too much in terms of HP, and the mangonel dies pretty quickly after that. Bombard's still working heavily. He's moving on in, and right in the nooks and crannies between the 2 archery ranges. 67 military versus 6. This is going to be a really rough hold for Puppypaw. I mean, he can't really afford to lose his siege engines. They're very expensive. He needs to find a way to deal with this. Now, he might have another mangonel popping out soon, and units are being trickled in, but he's really spread them out. So even if a mangonel does pop out, I mean, ultimately, the units being spread so much is not going to do that much damage. Going around the back, Manatoms, elite Manatoms at that. Was about to take out the Moss, going for the units instead. I mean, it'd be good to take out the Moss. There's 3 relics inside of that. He's backing away for now. The push has halted somewhat, but that's given him a lot of positioning. And whilst the 8,000 gold vein has been expired, he's going to get another keep in a really strong position. There's a decent amount of gold. Well, wait, I can't check how much gold there is. Oh, there is. 1,000 gold in him, not too bad, and has another stone area secure. I wonder whether this gold is expiring. If Wham can move out here on the west side and get the Sacred Site on the east, his gold income and gold denial will be massive. Wham just trickling in some units, keeping the Malians preoccupied, whilst he does establish a position, getting a town centre just for emergency repairs more than anything. Does have a siege workshop on the west side, could in fact get a bombard and try and start to take down this keep on the west side. But the Malians and Puppypaw have held on for a little bit longer, and they've got a good economy behind this anyway, so the game is not down and out just yet, but he needs to find a response, needs to find an army to fight with. But he does have the tools, he does have the resources to make them. Just needs those production buildings to come out ASAP. And look at this farming transition from the HRE, holy smokes. That food income looking very good. The food income not looking too shabby for the Malians either though. Just 1,700 gold left in the bank there on that gold vein. And without that, the HRE are starting to run out a bit of gold on the right. Oh, to be fair, actually, no, he's got a lot of gold left. He's got plenty of gold left. Yeah, I mean, interestingly enough, I think kind of fascinating this matchup is that in a lot of late game situations or 30-minute mark of the game, a lot of civilizations would be starting to run out of gold on the map. Just not the case for Malians and the HRE, because of course there's a lot of passive generation in HRE with the Relics and Relics Cathedral, of course. The Malians with the pit mines. It means that the gold income, you know, it's there. It's still there in the later stages of the games, or I should say later stages compared to other civilization matchups. I tell you what's the problem though, losing pit mines for the Malians is not something he would want. He just lost one. 2 bombards working on the keep, trying to get surround them with the veteran warrior scouts, but I mean ultimately there's just too many numbers here for Wham. That's not really a fight that puppypaw can take, and it's not just the numbers, it's the quality of army. We're talking man-at-arms, we're talking hand cannoneers, they're going to dive on the siege, so we'll lose the bombards in the end, which is a little bit unfortunate, a little bit sloppy by the stands of Wham, of course, and you get a wraparound. Arch numbers not looking too great anymore, but I tell you what is looking great, there's man-at-arms. I mean, it's going to be hard to break through. It's hard for the Malians to deal with man-at-arms, I've got to say, in many ways. They do have the access to the Musafadi warriors. I think Malians might need them. There's a lot of man-at-arms here on the field. 17 of them. Super tanky. Although hand cannoneers or Musafadi gunners will be fine. They'll help for sure. Around the back. Oh, this is an issue. He's not spotted it just yet. Puppypaw losing a decent number of villagers here. Oh, there's no mining camp either. Oh, that's rough. That is very rough. And they're just walking to their deaths. On the west side, whilst Wham has been being pushed back a little bit, he's recuperating, regrouping. Oh no, Puppypaw's not noticed this. Actually, maybe he has. We sent a gunner there. He's dealt with it. Now the 8,000 gold vein has expired. So actually, I've got to say, for the Malians, this is the only gold that's remaining. 3,000 gold. HRE, on the other hand, they've got 1,000 here, and I do believe they had a gold vein here somewhere. There it is. Still a good 4,000 involved in that one. And Tom's going to fight against the scouts. I mean, I think the man-at-arms probably end up dying here because they're pretty weak in terms of HP. Man-at-arms just raiding around the back, which is kind of an issue if Puppypaw needs to try and stem that flow if he can. He's coming in with another fight. Again with premium units. A couple of are there a couple of land skirmishes in there? No, it doesn't seem like it. It would be kind of cool to see those, but incidentally he's going to try and torch down the keep. And does have 2 culverins. Oh, on the right side though. Gunners trying to get involved, and it's a death ball of army, but it's getting surrounded here. Puppypaw trying to take out as many of these units as he possibly can, but I mean, the warrior scouts, they're not really achieving too much here. They're not able to get around the back. The spearmen are protecting those hand cannoneers incredibly well. The keep's still alive though. I think Spearman might just torch this down. I think he just goes for it. I mean, ultimately, even with boiling oil, I think this number of spearmen do take it down, although that does leave the hand cannoneers a little bit exposed. Another batch of spearmen do get involved with those warrior scouts. I think I mean, I like the fact he split his army in the end. He's going to get value by taking out the keep without needing siege, which is pretty big, and those scouts can't really do much about it because they are spearmen after all. Though Musafadi warriors or gunners are that rather should be able to push back the spearmen, but look at the numbers. Wham pushing on heavy. Does have the keep in the middle of the fort of the Huntress. That's definitely good static defense to fall back to for the Malians. It's something the HRE needs to find a solution to deal with. Looks like he's grouping up once again here, Wham. With a decent bank of resources. Ooh, wood is going to become an issue. Wood is going to become a big issue. It's going to go on the right side. There's also the big wood line on the west side, but slowly but surely they're having to edge towards the middle of the map. To Mangonel for the Malians. I love that play, right? Because HRE, as we said earlier in the game, they are posturing towards that heavy infantry base of an army. And of course, Mangonels will do well against that. Speaking of which, Mangonel getting in position, might get a big shot off here. This could be huge. He does deploy, tries to go on the archers on the back. Bombard pops out the worst possible time. Spearman might take that down, but with 2 Mangonels, I mean, if he hangs out, or 4 Mangonels, in fact, gets a massive Mangonel shot. Spearman charging on in, tries to take those gunners down as much as possible, but they get absolutely slaughtered by both the gunners and the Mangonels. And All of a sudden, the HRE having to split up the army, sending a group of spearmen northwards to peel away, or force the peeling away of units for the Malians. But look at the siege. This is definitely a big turning point. I mean, the siege is what's really making a big difference here. Spearmen trying to get rid of villagers on the farms. Puppypaw just trying to keep this area nice and protected. Looks like it's working so far. A couple of warrior scouts looking to raid around the back, but the Palace of Swabia though, it makes it very difficult to be raided to death as the HRE in this situation. Gonna keep on the west side, just to make sure there's no shenanigans coming on through there. Emergency repairs needed. I mean, this is an issue. Like, Wham needs to deal with the siege. I think it's going to need a lot of springles out somehow. Because spearmen and hand cannoneers doesn't really feel like it's going to cut it. He's going to move out now to try and snipe what he can. The mangonel's being pushed forward, actually. Wants to take the fight. Oh, God, that's a lot of mangonel shots. He has to back away with the mangonels now, or at least let the warrior scouts tank on the front line. Gunners ripping through the spearmen. Another massive mangonel shots on the retreat. Spearman numbers are really starting to dwindle, and I think that keep will not be longed for this world any much longer. And yep, it's on flames. It's going to go down to even the mangonel fire. Slowly but surely, wow, it's being pushed back a little bit. And I think really the cow boom, the passive gold generation for the malians does put them in a good spot in terms of villager or population efficiency. They just need less villagers to get as many resources. As I say that though, you always have to factor in the 40% from the prelate buff on the HRE. It's a significant eco boost as well. The Malians are trading. Good 18 traders already. 81 gold is a decent amount. So that's going to be the gold income for the Malians, which the HRE are now aware of. And I think maybe the HRE needs to start thinking about trade themselves, especially with the gold veins running out. He's backed him into a corner. I'm afraid. We're going to try and extract as much value from the warrior scouts as possible. To be fair, they're going to get great value off them after all. Like, they're all going to die anyway, but might as well take out as many of those scouts as possible. In the middle of the map, though, this is the engagement underneath the stealth forest. Spearman going to try and take out as much of the siege as possible. Mangonel's deploy, though, and actually, that's not great. He doesn't have enough units here. Those spearmen might take out at least one. Maybe not. Okay, he didn't. He had a couple of gunners there at the back. Speaking of gunners, those hand cannon numbers starting to really dwindle. Looks like the mangonel's really paying dividends for the Malians. And he keeps this area secure once again, Puppypaw. I gotta say, this stage of the game, I really do kind of fancy the gold income coming in for Puppypaw. The gold income and the economy is a lot more, I guess, stabilized without the siege. Siege trade. As I say that, trade is actually in. For Wham. 65 gold coming in per trader. Pretty big difference, actually. In the middle of the map, he's pushing on in. Gunners, though, there's so many of them. The warrior scout's going to try and snipe out the siege as much as possible. The 3 culverins, though, should be able to be okay, surviving. As I say that, though, Wham, he's trickling in units, and he's starting to lose that fight on the front line. The Moose Fighter Gunners, way too many numbers, and with the number of bombard, he's only got 1 bombard, but I'm afraid he's not being able to push this just yet. Hand cannon numbers looking decent for the HRE. They're holding him for now. Which is just as well, because you feel like another push is coming in soon for Puppypaw. Now, I wonder whether other player will look to try and deny a trade. So always an option. There's 2 keeps here on the west side there, so it'd be tricky to do that on this side at least. Getting the sacred site for good measure. A bit of extra gold coming in that way as well. Wham starting to push on in. I've got to say, in terms of this stage of the game, you start to consider the banker resources, because, you know, when you do start to fight, it comes down to the issue of, well, if you lose your army, can you replace them? Like, gotta say, bank of resources wise is pretty similar between the two players. Not a lot in differences there. Well, I've got to say, gold income significantly more over time for puppypaw. That might change though with the spearman might to maybe take out some traders maybe. But maybe just going to walk around the back. Go for the farmers instead potentially. In the meantime, here come the warrior scouts pushing villagers away. Connor's going to work on the spearman as much as possible. Yeah, the warrior scout's going to snipe as many villagers. I mean, the thing is though, going up against HRE, you're never going to kill more than they can produce. Unless there's some sort of kind of crazy push. It's because of that Palace of Swabia. They're going to go in with the warrior scouts in the end anyway. It's a relatively cheap unit to throw away. He certainly knows about the trade. That's the last of the spearmen being sent to raid. A decent number of villagers here, and these warrior scouts are going to have a bit of a lead time compared to the spearmen. Spearmen though with marching drills will catch up relatively soon, or he's going to ignore the villagers, trying to find out what he's up against. Oh, but this is a big push in for the HRE, although that's a lot of siege. Mangonels deploy on the stealth field. Oh god, he's losing so much, those hand cannoneers. Look at the dead bodies. Jeez Louise. That was huge. And with trebuchets working on the keep. God, that mangonel shot. That changed everything in that fight. Siege certainly becoming interestingly more important and relevant as the game wears on. A bit of raiding on the farms. Should be able to deal with that like he has done all game, the Malians. Now look at that, really population efficient. 96 villagers, but that's all he needs. And look at the food and gold income coming in. It's bonkers. And the concern I have for Wham is there's a lot of siege for puppypaw. Only one bombard, so it will take some time to take care of the keeps and static defenses, but with 3 culverins, if he's paying attention, that bombard could pretty much never be denied. Unless it's up against... There we go, he's got the gunners in position just as well. Yep, keep out to go down, and there it is. That could be the start of a staging ground for attack. As the Malians. Does get a villager in the end, but will be taken down by those villagers. 77 military versus 77, pretty even in number. Oh, that's a big raid on the trades. I gotta say, like that could go down. I mean, that's a lot of traders. He needs to get some units there quickly if he can. Look at the siege death ball from the Malians. How does he deal with that? He's gonna lose the first of the landmarks. And with losing the Palace of Swampy, actually, after that, raids that do come in will be significant. Mustafa gunners do take out the spearmen that are raiding the traders, and yeah, it's going to move on in here. Puppypaw is at 200 population. He can replace the army really quickly. Decent number of mangonels about to deploy. Mustafa gunner warriors don't really have much of a meat shield in front of them. The spearmen might try and get top of the spearmen. Look to try and take the siege out first, it seems. But I mean, ultimately, oh god, okay, he's going to get a good number of these mangonels taken by the spear, but the mangonels do get a massive shot on the spearmen on the front line. That's huge, and Mustafa gunner warriors coming up on the stealth forest behind them, just to clear out the spearmen. And yeah, this is looking a good pushback for the HRE. He's coming in with hand cannons of his own, but I think puppypaw should have enough to hold in that stealth forest, especially with the mangonels still alive. Wham needs to be careful not to come together too much. Here come some warrior scouts around the back. If they can take out the spearmen, those warrior scouts will just have a field day of the infantry behind them, and slowly but surely puppypaw continuing to push on in. Trebuchet still working hard, and just three more landmarks for the Malians to take out for the victory. Oh, mangonel about to deploy. This could be huge. This could be huge as a shot. It's massive. Oh, it's massive on the hand cannons around the back. He loses a lot of HP. Not many of the units actually die, but it changes the fight in a big way. As I say that, another mangonel shot's come out, and I think he might lose one more mangonel. No, he actually it's still 2 alive, and he's trying to focus them with the hand cannoneers, but a decent shot does migrate pretty well there, Wham, to get out of range. But another mangonel comes up from the back, and another heavy shot. And that's what's turning the fight in a big way. Musafardigani warriors cleaning up everything else. And around the back on the right side, here come the warrior scouts. I mean, ultimately, Wham going to start to lose economy. He doesn't have the Palace of Swabba to replenish. It was in that forward position. It was it was the first landmark that went down. And this siege death ball is looking really difficult to deal with, as is the raiding on the right side. If he sends a spearman there, that means the frontline fight will be much weakened. Musafardigani warriors, they're looking at a strong unit to protect the siege. Added in another mangonel, so 3 in total at this point. The raids continue. The spearmen being pulled away. Going to try and wall up and protect the trade as much as possible. Puppypaw though, still at 200 population. Wham struggling, although as I said, that villagers might get the torches out, although Musafardigani warriors, that's the big deal, right? There's still so many of them. And he keeps on pumping units. He can't get close to the siege. Oh, another mangonel shot could deploy on the hand cannons that get out in time. This is not looking good for Wham. After such a strong push earlier on in the game, he's being pushed back heavily now. Spearman poking and prodding. But again, this number... Okay, yeah, this number of mangonels is devastating. He's got 8 of them. That's going to be impossible to deal with. There's no anti-siege for Wham. It's just a matter of time, you feel. And he might charge it down with Spearman. But Musafardigani is going to eventually rip through them. And this is a death ball of army. Wham, down to 95 population, or villagers rather, I should say. And Spearman can't get close to the siege. He's got so many culverins as well. There it is, ladies and gentlemen. It was the siege in the end that takes the victory for Puppypaw. Great game of Age of Empires for him. And Wham had a lot of aggression, but he wasn't able to see out the game. And Puppypaw came with a vengeance. It was the siege for the Malians. If you guys enjoyed this castle game on YouTube, make sure you give the video a thumbs up. Take care, and see you next time.